Hey everybody, it's Friday, and if it's Friday, that must mean it's Free Tip Friday from beadshop.com. It's Kate Richburg, and I am, as always, super excited to share a Free Tip Friday project with you. That was a lot of words. Awesome. I'm in front of the camera. Gracie's actually to the side of the camera with me, and we're going to share, I think, a really cool thing today with some Green Girl components, some chain, and some leather. So how are you doing, Gracie?
I'm good. How are you, Kate?
I'm doing all right. How's everybody doing out there?
So far, so good.
So good. We've overcome our glitches from Wednesday.
I think so. Drea says hello, but I see that more than 3 people are viewing.
And that's good. So
Bonnie
if you're
says hi.
Oh, excellent. That means we're out into the world. So thanks a lot, you guys, for hanging with us this past Wednesday with those little technical glitches, but it looks like we're back on the road. So let me take a bracing swig of coffee and let's get right to it.
We have a lot of hellos. And Drea says that Kate, your hair looks extra sassy today.
Do I look extra sassy? It's because I made it curl this way today, I think. For extra sass. Well, great. Well, I am really excited to share some of these new Green Girl components with you guys. You know, Green Girl, let me give you a little bit of history about Green Girl components. And then we'll jump right into the project. So my buddy Cynthia Thornton is the mastermind behind Green Girl Studios, and it's a business that she runs with her husband Greg. And Cynthia and Greg have been doing this for many years with different help, different times from different people in their family, including her brother Andrew Thornton. Some of you may know Andrew out in the bead world. He has a great bead studio over in Linger, Pennsylvania. It's called Allegory Gallery. And Cynthia's her sister, Sheila, also would help from time to time making designs. So it's a great family operation. The way that Green Girl pieces, and I'm going to kind of hold a couple up so you guys can see, and I know that a lot of you in the bead world are familiar with Green Girl. These pieces, she does charms, she does beads, she does clasps, and she mainly casts in pewter. She also does some casting in bronze, and she does some pieces out of metal clay as well. And the way that Cynthia mostly creates these pieces is she either carves them out of wax, and her carving techniques are amazing, and sometimes she comes out to visit me on this coast. Maybe we could have her on a Facebook Live or a Free Tip Friday just to show the process of how she makes these pieces, because it's really amazing. But as I was saying, she either carves them out of wax or she sculpts them out of polymer clay. And then that's the base model for these pieces, and then they are cast. As I say, mostly cast out of pewter, and they're cast right in their home studio, right in North Carolina. So this is all U.S. made, all lead-free, and all made by a small company. So Cynthia, we're a big admirer of yours, of both you and Greg's, and you can check out more of Cynthia's work. Her Instagram feed is a great way to kind of see what she's up to lately. So any questions about that so far, Gracie?
No, just a lot of comments on loving the hair.
Oh, you guys. You're so sweet. It's the lift I needed today. Okay, well, let's take a look at the project and take a look at the materials and the tools you're going to need to do this, and actually take a look at the project itself. So let me kind of arrange. I don't know, Gracie, I'm arranging while you're moving the camera, so I don't know if that's the best course of action, but can we get a little more from my perspective over here, do you think? Let's see that so that people kind of see how I'm here in my hands, here I'm working. Do you guys like that perspective? Does that work for you guys? I'm going to move these all the way over there with my stripy arms. These over here with my stripy arms. There you go. So I've got a good work area here. Is that good? Thumbs up? All right. Great. So the piece that I'm going to be working on today is really reminiscent of a piece that I used to do, a class that I used to teach a million times, I feel like, from our bead shop days, our brick and mortar days. And it was a class called Sundance Choker. And the whole premise behind Sundance Choker was using mixed media. So I incorporated a lot of chain, I incorporated a lot of leather, and of course charms, beads, things like that, and a couple of interesting techniques like knotting the leather or doing a silk wrap on the leather. So this is kind of a quick down and dirty primer on how to achieve this kind of look. I really love the way that Cynthia's charms kind of have a rustic feel to them. Let me dump a few out here so you guys can see them. Not only, and these are from our new collection that we have online on our website at beadshop.com, not only are they darling, like super darling on the front. Can you see that dragonfly? I was going to say firefly. That's not a firefly, it's a dragonfly. On the front, and you can see on the back it says fly, which is so cute. I love this eye. You guys know that the eye is one of my favorite symbols. And on the back it says seek, which I think is great. And I think the horse says bravest, or yes, the best hearts are ever the bravest, which is really a great saying, and it's the running horse. So these are all, I think, certainly fraught with meaning, and out of Cynthia's really incredible imagination. Really always never fails to astound me. We have a few buttons, some charms, and then we have a couple of beads as well. So let me show you a little bit about the base of this necklace and how it's constructed. And this would be appropriate, you guys, for any type of charm that you might want to use. But I think Green Girl is a great collection to start with. So I started designing this piece, and I was actually, like I do every Friday morning, I start thinking about it in the shower. And I thought, well, you know, Sundance Choker, or this kind of kind of boho kind of feeling to these, you know, jewelry that's out now, I think would really translate well. So what I started with was chain. And I knew that I wanted half of this necklace, because this is going to end up being a necklace, though it could also be a bracelet. Half of the necklace was going to be chain. The other half was going to be leather. Okay? And the chain that I pulled our 2 lanterns, I pulled our circle back, and I pulled our lentil. Now, you can go to our chain category on beadshop.com and choose any chain you like. That's what I did. I chose these 3 because I thought they kind of hung out nicely together, but any of your choices will work. And also, you guys, I have a blog post that's almost ready to go. So after this broadcast, I'll finish up putting the photos in it, and I'll hit publish, and you'll be able to see all of the ingredients that I've used there. Okay. I chose 3 strands of chain because I wanted these 3 strands to counterbalance these 2 strands of leather here. But you could also just use 2 strands of chain or 1 strand of heavier chain. You know, you do you. Whatever you want to do. Okay. Then on this side, what I did was I said, well, you know what? The other side's going to be, it's going to be leather. And I went to our leather scrap box and grabbed some 1mm distressed denim because I like the size of the 1mm against this chain, and it was sitting there ready to be used. So that's what I grabbed. So for this side, it could be heavier leather, but with the beads that I've chosen, the 1mm I think was the right size. Then I decided, well, you know, what beads am I going to use? And so we've just gotten back in our aged check Picasso beads, which I think are the most delicious things on the face of this earth. This one is the check. This is the Old Crow. That guy, it has a pretty big hole. And always when you work with leather, finding a bead that has a big hole is always a necessity. This is the check, the 6/0. And you guys, if the way that these beads come is they come in little tubes that look like this size tube. So they're plenty for your project, and it feels like each bead in the tube varies slightly. I'm going to string a few of these on my awl so you guys can see kind of the mix that's happening there. They're so, just like in the words of Janice, they're so delicious. And then we have a tube of the aged wampum beads, and this is, whoops, I'm so excited I'm throwing them out on the table. This is also kind of a mix. And I thought that these 3 beads together with all of their mixes would give me a lot of possibilities. Grace is nodding her head over there, so she must agree with me.
I do. I mean, everyone agrees.
Yep. Question, Gracie, so far?
I don't think we have a question.
Okay, great. I know that you guys...
Bead charms are very light.
Well,
Yes.
Andrea answered, yeah, she said
Yeah.
that they're pewter, but they're light.
Yeah, they are pretty light. And so, you know, Cynthia has made me a couple of pairs of earrings out of her charms, and I've made some as well, and I think they're great for earrings. So they're not overly heavy or weighty. And you can see they're also not super thick, but Britannium isn't necessarily a really heavy metal. If you're familiar with charms from Tiara Cast also uses like a pewter for their base. So they're comparable in weight to like our Tiara Cast charms. Okay, so I ascertained what beads I was going to use, right? These aged check. I'll move those aside. And then I thought, well, you know, I want a couple of other beads for fun. We just got back in some of our great tribal pieces when Janice found these guys again. So I grabbed these small dents, which I love, and they come in a variety of shapes in your little package. So I just think they're beautiful, beautiful. So I use these guys. And then we also got our Tides Out. And these are in Seafoam, and they come in a package of 5. And I figured, you know, it's always good to have a little donut in this kind of design, and I'll show you why that is in a few. Okay? So then, you're also going to need some leather. As I said, I got the 1mm here, and I got this 2mm here, and I'll show you how I use those two. And of course, I needed, I did a little silk wrapping in this, so I got the Celadon Ceylon in the regular size. But whatever Ceylon you might have hanging out will work. You could even do this silk wrapping with tough cord or Chinese knotting cord, whatever works for you. Okay, so let me put those fibers to the side for a second. And then, of course, tool-wise, you're going to need like a thread cutter, and you may need a tape measure. And that'll probably be about it, or close to being it. Maybe a pair of pliers a little further on down the line, but that's your basics. So to get started, let me move these guys. These luscious dents. Are people feeling the love for this tribal, Grace?
Oh, yes.
You
definitely.
know, that tribal and trade, one of my favorite categories. You know, when I was away from Janice for a little while, and when I was perusing beadshop.com, the first category that I would go to always was tribal and trade, because they're my favorites. Yep, question.
I have a question. Debbie wants to know how you pick your color choices. Do you use a photo?
Oh gosh, well, Debbie, you know, when I think about these things in the shower before I do them, the morning before I do them, the urgency makes me make some decisions pretty quickly. And I, maybe like you, or maybe like some of you others out there, I could play with beads all day long and look at different color combinations and stuff. But since it's time sensitive and I'm usually under the gun, you know, deadline wise, it makes me make my choices pretty quickly. So what I did was, when I chose this bead palette today, I started with this bead, this aged wampum mix. And then it naturally led me to kind of the other pieces in this collection. I was like, well, that bead is kind of long and tubular, so I need something that's small that's going to fill in. So let me go to these 6/0 because they match. They look great. They have a lot of color variation, and it's a smaller one. And then I went, is Janice watching? Do I see JP?
She is. She just...
Hi, Janice. And then I thought, well, I need a bigger one, so I'm going to go to the Old Crow. So I've kind of bookended this guy with a smaller bead, a smaller bead and a larger bead. And I thought 3 beads is plenty. Okay. Then what I did was, I'll put those aside, and I thought, well, it can't all be about the aged Czech Picasso, right? So I looked and I said, well, we've just gotten these in. I love these beads. I want a little bit of metal, so I chose the small dents, and I want a little bit of opacity, so I chose the opaque tribal Tides Out in Seafoam Green. So that was my thinking behind pulling this palette together. And then I went to the Green Girl, our little Green Girl collection, and I pulled things out that just spoke to me. And then lastly, I went to the chain and I chose 3 strands that had some kind of contrast to them, including color. I have a copper here, and shape. I wanted something that was a little dense, so I used this lentil. And then I wanted it a little dense, but have a little more of maybe some 3-dimension to it. So that's why I chose the 2 lanterns. So in a nutshell, that was kind of my thinking. I hope that answers your question and wasn't too long-winded about it. Okay. So I know that some of you may be wondering about this connection right here. So let me show you. What I did was I went in and I cut my chain, and I'm not even worried about the lengths down here on the other end of the chain. I'll even those up in a little bit. But I cut all of the links so that I had big links at the ends. See that there? And I just strung through. I got my 1 millimeter. And I'll show you on this end because I'm going to have to do this anyway. Come on, unfurl. There we go. Let's even these out. And I actually have already evened them. But can you see here on the very end with that lentil and that lantern, how the end of the chain is a tiny hole? And these chains have soldered rings, so I want to keep that soldered ring because if I used a small jump ring, it would pull out. Okay? So all I'm going to do is I'm going to get my trusty wire cutter and I'm going to cut that little lentil away. Let me grab it and then I'll show you. Okay, cut it, put my thumb over it so it doesn't fly up into my head, and free that ring up. See that? Done and done. Then I'll do the same thing with this lantern. I want that loop there. Give me that loop. So I'll cut away that tiny little portion of lantern, push it to the side. In every project, some chain must be wasted. And then I'll come down here, I'll even it all up, or not, it'll be pretty close. This one's a little short, but I think maybe so they'll kind of layer just slightly or graduate just a little bit. I'll cut a couple off of that circle back chain. There we go. Now, to make the other side, and it's the same connection like I did right down here, okay? All I did was I strung my leather through. 1, bam, bam, sort of bam. There we go, 2 and 3. And I know that this is familiar to Janice, who's watching with our Sundance choker technique. You know, that, I think we've got the handout up. I think we do on our class handouts. I think I saw it there. And it's a great one. It's a really great one to just kind of consult. But you can't really make a mistake with this. Just keep adding and layering until you're happy with the piece. And I'll measure this. I'll give you some measurements in a bit. Right now, I'm just kind of flying by the seat of my pants, even measurement wise, because I know that whatever this measurement of this chain, it's kind of scraps and stuff that I had, so I just use them. And then on this side of the piece, I can make some more adjustments, you know, on this side for my measurement. So what I'm going to do here is, and this will probably be my, maybe this will be my loop side, and I'll do my button side over here. Doesn't really make any difference. I'll come in, I can tie this together in a knot, just an overhand knot, right? Just like that. But I'm not going to tie the other side yet because I need to know what size my button is going to be. But I'll tie another knot up here, and this will be my closure for my button. My button will fit right there. Okay? So I'm not going to sweat it. You know, don't sweat the small stuff. Now I'm going to turn around, and I'm going to come here, and I'm going to just string up some beads. And so now might be the time to measure. All right? And there's no wrong or right answer on this, you guys. You do you, okay? I'm going to say that this, I'm guessing, yep, it's going to be about 22, maybe 24, 25 inches, what Janice and I like to call door to door, okay? And on me, that's a length that I really like. Plus, I'm going to have some dangles that go down here, and this dangle is going to add, I don't know, the dangles are going to be from like 3 to 4 inches about here, so I think this is about right, okay? So, but to finish this portion up before we get to the dangles, let me show you. I just started by stringing on a 6/0. I didn't even put a knot down here because the 6/0 was kind of tight, so I just left it. I strung on some wampum, another 6/0, a dent, another 6/0, and then a knot. So now I'm going to put in another knot, and I'm going to go, I don't know, maybe about an inch-ish. Make my knot with my leather. I make my loop, and I go through not only once, but you guys have seen me do this before, and I go through twice, okay, like that. Bam. Now the kick to this knot is, see how I kind of smush it down so it looks like it's in a figure 8, and I just push those little loops of the figure 8 together. Bam, 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 just like that. See how there's a little X on one side and a little doubled over stack on the other. Okay, now I'm just going to string my beads. What beads, do you ask? Well, I don't know. Let me start with the 6/0 because it's small and the other ones kind of have bigger holes. So let me go with a 6/0. Let me go with an old crow. Let me go with another 6/0. I don't know. Wampum? Thumbs up for wampum? I'll go for a wampum. I'll go for this yellow wampum because that's a bead color we don't see that often, right? Just kind of look at it. Yeah, yay, I like it. I'll throw on a dent. Bam. And let me finish with a 6/0. Okay? And look at that nice kind of negative space and shape that I've got there. Again, I'm not sweating it. You know, we really have to trust in the overall look of the piece. If your color palette and your individual pieces of beads work really well, then your finished piece is going to work really well. There are bigger things in this life to worry about, you guys, if, you know, other than does this bead and this bead, are they exactly the perfect bead to be next to each other? Just kind of, you know, play, and you'll find what works. So you can see I now have 3, this section, this section, this section, so maybe I'll add my next section here. Again, I'm going to make that knot. I'm not going to talk you through it that slowly. I'm going to do it in Kate time. Whoops, there's a big honking truck outside. If you heard that, that's what that was. There we go. And can you see how I kind of lay it there and I go, yeah, that looks about right. So let me put another. This time I could start with one of those wampum because the hole's small enough. And maybe I'll get some of these 6/0. I see a lot of conversation going on there, Gracie. Hot and heavy. How's everybody doing out there?
Everyone's good. Gita was late. Everyone was wondering earlier where she was. Now she's here.
Oh, thank goodness, Gita. We can't ever do it without you.
Yeah.
And Gita, I just wanted to say a big thank you. You know, I emailed you, but a big thank you for those lovely trinkets and gifts that you sent. Janice's and Drea's are on the way to them. And I know, Gracie, you enjoyed your little treats. And I know that Emily did as well. So thank you so much for thinking of us all for my birthday and sending things over. So there's another little section around and around twice. And just, you know, if you don't get it super tight up against the bead, that also doesn't matter. You know, who cares? Who cares? As Julia Child says, who's to know? And since Julia Child is my spirit animal, I'm going to adopt that moniker as well. So see, now we've got two. So now I'll kind of maybe step back for a second and go, all right, what have I got here? All right, that doesn't look too bad. A little bit. Is that better, Gracie? So then I've got these, what are those, Tides Out, those guys. And Cara asked me earlier, she said, oh, you should put a disc or something in there. And I thought, yeah, Tides Out would be good. So what I like to do with Tides Out sometimes is I like to lay them flat. And let's see if this hole is big enough. Yes, it is. See the side view of what I've got there? I put leather going through one way and I put leather going through the other way. And I'm sliding, I'm sliding, I'm sliding, I'm sliding until I like where it goes. Okay, I like the looks of that. But can you see how it's kind of big and kind of flopping around like this? So you know what it's time for? What's it time for, Gracie?
Knot.
You could do a knot
Or a
for
bead.
sure. I could do a knot. I could put a bead that had a big hole to pull it together. I could also silk wrap, right? So you know how I feel about silk wrapping. I feel about silk wrapping the same way I feel about shadows. I love them. Love it. So we have a great skill builder, right? Janice, silk wrap. Yes, Janice. This is one of the very first things I learned, like in the first month when I worked at the bead shop, when we had our brick and mortar, when I came on board back in 1992. This is one of the first things I learned. Our class director at the time was a sailor, and she had all of these sailing knots. So this is something that I learned from Mia way back in the day. And we have a great skill builder on it. I'll go over it one more time because I'm going to silk wrap one more time.
Gita's already linked.
She's linked. Gita, you're amazing. But the silk wrap is a really easy way to bind two pieces together. And again, I won't detail it too much here because I don't want to take up too much of the broadcast with the silk wrapping. But if you haven't done it, it's really easy to do, really effective, and a really great way to add fiber, make your piece a little more, as I would like to say, fiber forward, to add a little bit of thread. So I'm going to pull that under, and I'll go over it a little more slowly the next time I do it, but I just wanted to get it on my leather. There we go. Look at how nice that looks. And before I wrapped it, you guys, I wanted to make sure that my strands were fairly even, that I didn't have too much bulk on one side or the other. Okay, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to clip it and clip it away. Then I'll slide that Tides Out down, and maybe just for fun, instead of silk wrapping, I'll do a knot on this end. Okay. Now, let's take a look at our length. Okay. I think I need maybe one and one more sections here. So I'm just going to do them really quickly, and then we'll move on. Questions so far, Grace?
No.
I guess I'm answering everyone's questions.
You are?
All right. Well, I'm doing something right today, right? But this is, you guys, a really fun project to, like I said, do some mixing and matching. We've got some really great coming up this weekend. Do you guys remember that sneak preview of those beads that Janice gave you when we were at Bead Fest Philly? All of those really wonderful agates. They looked like ancient beads, and those vases, all of those. Well, those are coming up this weekend. This would be a great one to mix some of those guys into. I love how it kind of has a, you know, kind of an off-the-cuff, kind of vintagey kind of feel to it. And you can see I'm getting low on leather, which is freaking me out just a little bit, but we'll always make it work. I just took a length of leather that we had out of the scrap box, and I probably cut, I don't know, maybe 50 inches, maybe a little more, maybe 55, but maybe 60 inches might have been a little more prudent. But, you know, we can always make it work, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. I'm going to use another one of these guys, that old crow, another stripy old check because I can't get enough of them. Let me also show you, I did this automatically, and I didn't share this tip with you. Here's the thread, or the cord. See how it has a little bit of an angle cut to it? The angle cut, I do that just with my wire cutters like so. I do that because this old crow has the smallest of the holes, and that angle cut helps to lead that thread in there and helps to make it string a lot easier. So that's why I did that. So an angle cut is a good staple. Throw on one more dent and one last, oops, my fingers can hang on to it, one last crow. Sometimes the holes are a little bit small like this one, so just reject it and get another one in there. There we go, that one fits. And let's knot it, okay? And I'll knot it again. Okay, done and done. So now let's check the length, shall we? Check that length. So it looks, I like the looks of that. I think we're good. I'll be able to add, just by the seat of my pants, add that button. But you know what? What I don't have to do is actually have that button sit in the back. This necklace could come around and my button could actually sit on the side. So that's what I'm going to have it do. Sounds good to me. Before I add the button though, I want to go ahead and I want to add my little dangles. And this is something, a dangle that I used to make all the time. And I love kind of the look of making leather bails for dangles. So can you see here, I've got Cynthia's charm, the feather charm. I'm going to add, I'm going to use the eye charm. I'm going to use the butterfly charm. And I think I'll use dragonfly, whatever it's called, that thing. And maybe I'll use the birdie, little bird. Okay. So to start the way to start this charm, what I'm going to do, and you already know how to do this. If you know how to do the silk wrapping and do these knots, it's the same thing. So, how much, you're asking, Kate, how much cord do I cut? Well, I don't know. This much? 8 inches? How long is this? It's 10 inches of cord. Okay? I'll cut it. I want plenty to work with, plenty to improvise with. There we go. Now I'm going to slide one of the charms on. And if I need to angle cut it, which it looks like I do, I will. Slide that puppy on. See, that angle cut makes it go through like a dream. Now, I'll come in and I'll just tie a knot. See how this one just has a little knot right there? I'm going to tie a knot. There's some crazy Lincoln going on over there from Drea and Gita. So I just tied that knot, right? So now I've got this. So now I need a loop at the top. The way I'm going to make that loop is silk wrap. Yes. And you can decide how big you want that loop to be, but see how I've got this extra guy here, then this is coming down for this loop. So maybe I'll make this a little bit of a smaller one or a shorter one. I'll get my seal on.
Janice is asking what it looks like on 5mm leather. I'm not sure if she means silk wrap or not.
Oh, silk wrap with the smaller leather, JP?
I'm not sure if she means the flat 5mm or if she means...
Huh. I could also silk wrap. She may be wondering if I did this silk wrap with leather instead of the seal-on. And I think you could also do that as well. I've done it in the past, and I think it looks great. You do have to be careful, though, as you're pulling the leather through, that you don't tug too hard on the leather, or it can break when you silk wrap with it. So just be a little more careful with that. So now to silk wrap, I'm going to go about 2/3 to 1/3 up here, and I've got this loop going on. I'm going to lay that loop down, and I'm going to wrap I'm going to gather all of these, that other tail of seal-on, and all 3 cords of my leather. I'm going to wrap it around, and I'm going to wrap it towards the loop that I made up there. Okay, and again, that silk wrap tutorial will really help you. You can practice it on some practice leather with some scrap seal-on.
She was saying thinner leather for the base. I'm not sure if she meant the bale itself or if she meant using the leather.
Yeah, you could do, all of that could happen, JP. Right? It doesn't have to be a 2mm. We could do any leather. And see, I just pull that in. Tighten everything up. And see that little loop that's caught the thread? You eventually pull it so it goes right under that wrapping. It's living under there now. Then I pull on both sides of the cord, both ends. It tightens everything up. Sometimes I give myself, if my hands can't quite grip it, I give myself a little bit of an extra tug with my plier. There we go. Helps me really get that nice and tight. Now I can trim away with wild abandon. So I'm going to trim this top one. Get my cord scissors there. I'm going to trim away there. And I'm going to trim away this extra piece right there. So now I've got a couple of things that look like this, right? These little bales on here. I have some extra leather coming down. I could just leave that extra cord and tie some knots in it or whatever. But what I am going to do is I'm going to add a little charm and go back up the other way. So see here, I'm going to add that charm. This I've given myself a whole bunch of extra leather. So when I said 11 inches, may have been a little short here. Maybe I'd go 15 or 16 inches, because again, it'll give you plenty of room to improvise, which is what this style of necklace making is all about. And see, I want that little birdie maybe to hang a little lower there. So let me just quickly, I could knot it or silk wrap it. Do I have, yeah, that 1mm, it's a little heavy to silk wrap with, but the 0.5 would work. But let's give it one more go. Again, wrap it all around and wrap it towards that loop, nice and tight, one wrap next to the other, just like so. I've been silk wrapping for forever, you guys, so I do make it look super easy, but with a little bit of practice, you'll be silk wrapping in no time. Tighten that down, tighten it all down, get that plier in there just in case if you're having trouble getting it tight. There we go. Now I'm ready to just clip all of this away. Clip, clip, and clip this guy. Ta-da! So now I have a really great way to hang these charms. Now, you can put this on anything. You could string with this. You could do whatever it is you wanted, whatever worked for you, right? But I'm going to put it in the middle of my necklace. So I'm going to come over here. I haven't finished this one, but I will. String these on. Slide them on down. Ta-da! Look at how great that tassel looks. And then I'm going to come back in and I'm going to silk wrap that eye right onto there. But to close it off, because we're almost done, you guys, right? I'm going to come in. Did I say that this was going to be... See, and you could also, look at this. See how this just kind of came around like that? It could also just go right here, you know, sit at the chain here. It doesn't have to sit at that junction. So any of that will really work. So I'm going to add my button right here. And the way I'm going to add my button is, let me grab Cynthia's button. I'm going to grab this little rose button, which is darling. And the bail on this rose button, it's pretty big. So I can pass one piece of leather through one way, one piece of leather through the other way, slide it down, make sure it's all even. Now what do I do here? I could also macrame if I wanted. Macrame would look great. You know, however you wanted to bind this together. You could wire it, you could put a transition bead here, right, like we do with Tahoes. You could do that and crimp that closed, however you wanted to do it. But what I will do eventually is silk wrap it. But for now, I think is what I'll do. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use one of our clampers and just kind of clamp it closed so it's holding that all together. Now what I'll do here on this end is I'm going to figure out how much length I need, or of an opening I need, for this button to go through. So maybe I can have a little bit of play. So it's going to be about like that. So I'll come in.
Are you using the small rose button?
I think so. It's the only rose button that Green Girl has. Pardon me. So I think it's Little Rose maybe, or Rose button. Before I tighten it up too much, I want to make sure that that opening isn't too big. That opening is just a little bit big, so let me move that knot on down. Check it one more time. Come on, there we go. That looks right. So now I can tighten it. Just like we do at the end of a wrap bracelet, I'm just going to come in. You know what I'm going to do before I do that? Let's make it fancy. I've always got to make it fancy, right, Grace?
Definitely.
Always fancy. Let me see if I can get one that has a big hole. And I'll just... Yeah, these clamps, these were an Emily discovery. Emily loved them so much that she turned Janice and I onto them. So you can find them right on our site. We are now, clamps are permanently in our stringing needs box. Permanently a part of my stringing essentials. Now I'll just cut away this extra. And shall I just silk wrap this? It won't take me long. I'll just do one more, right, Gracie? One last silk wrap for the road. Any questions while I'm doing this? There's been, I know, a lot of you have been chitty-chatting with JP and talking about the stuff you love.
Donna says you're great at instructing, and
Oh, thanks, Donna.
Angela says she has trouble understanding the application of the clamps. Oh, but then now she just said, never mind. She thought you were referring to the new findings on the website with the rubber stoppers.
Oh, yeah, no. The clampers, I think we call these. But I call them little clamps. There's a silk wrap at the end. Pass it through. Tighten it up. Tighten it up one last time. Making sure that I've got, this is going to be the kind of a rubbing point here, or a weak point on your piece. So you want to make sure that you've got enough loop there so that that button can move around. Okay? So let's just shed all of this extra thread. Now if this were longer, I could add some more dangles down here, but let's ditch it. Let's ditch it in a pretty way by cutting it in an angle and making that mindful. Let's close it. Let's see what that closure looks like. Oh my gosh, you guys. Can you even stand it? I can't stand it. I love it so much. Look at how cute that looks, if I do say so myself. But it's because Cynthia's button looks so fantastic. And this is what it looks like on the other side. You can see I've made the silk wrap a little long so it clears that button. And it also doesn't really interfere with the little tassels and stuff that I did. Okay. So let me slide this over. Let's take a look at this whole thing. That wasn't too bad. That was a pretty quick necklace we kind of banged out here this morning. But I hope it gives you guys some good ideas about a little bit up. There we go. Some good ideas about how to use, you know, how to kind of mix it up. I'm going to put that eye over here like this. So that's all there is to it, gang. Some chain, some leather, choose some beads that you love, choose some charms that you love, and you're good to go. Any final thoughts or questions, Gracie, while you're moving that camera back? I'm going to put this on.
Several people say it deserves a spot on the project.
Oh,
page.
well, Drea, you know what you're doing next, I guess, right? Let me go ahead and put this on. Let's see if I've got the link at all right. Let's see. Ta-da! Oh yeah, it's a great length. Who knew that I knew?
Looks good.
How to? There we go. Am I all fixed? With that one more, I'll do that one more charm right there, and we'll be good to go. All right. Well, that was it, you guys. Fun on a Friday. So, you'll be able to find the link to this guy on the blog with all of the ingredients. And we'll see about getting this up as a project so you guys can have the full effect of it. But for now, if you do want to shop them, I'll have that link up for you in just a little bit, and I'll post it here on the Facebook page. Just a reminder to check your newsletters, because we've got all kinds of stuff, as always, going on this week. And this weekend, we've got your Choose Your Discount sale, which is happening. And I've also pinned that up on the Facebook page as well. And it's also on the front page of our website at beadshop.com. So you can check that up until next Friday, or the 6th of October. And I guess that's it. It was fun and crazy and, I don't know, big project. But you know what? Why not? It was fun to do it all together. So thanks so much for joining me. On Wednesday, Emily and I finish up Seed Bead School when we embellish that right angle weave. So I'm really excited about that. I hope you guys have been conquering that base of the right angle weave. I know that I've been practicing for the weekend, or for next week. So any final words, Grace?
No, everyone loved this project.
Oh,
and
yay.
Everyone says you look super cute. Janice says you
Oh,
look gorgeous.
you guys are
You do.
Oh, you guys are so good to me. You guys look great too. Look at you. You look fantastic. Well, go out, have a great weekend. We'll see you online. Yes,
Sorry, there was
Gracie?
one final
One more.
thing. Drea just wanted to say thank you to everyone who
Yes.
donated for her walk tomorrow.
Yes, and Janice and Drea, thanks for reminding me, Drea. Janice and Drea are going to be going live tomorrow from the MG walk that both she and Janice are doing. And we have sent out in our newsletter for the past couple of days a link to the Bead Shop fundraising page for Drea's walk. You can go right to our blog and see more details on that if you are not in the loop on it. But, oh, and thank you, Gita. The link is right there. But a real heartfelt thanks to you guys for being so generous with your donations for Ardria. We were talking about it last night, and we were talking about how great it was and how cool you guys were and how touched she was. So thank you for doing that for one of our Bead Shop family. So have a fantastic and creative weekend. You'll see Janice and Drea tomorrow on Facebook live from the walk. And you'll see Emily and I next week. Have a great weekend, everybody. Talk to you soon.